I know every clown on the internet has done their version of the Star Wars sequels. You're probably tired of seeing them. I know I am. A lot of people built up expectations of what would happen in a sequel to their favorite trilogy from their childhood, and when expectations could not possibly be met, they thought that these movies sucked as a result. But a lot of the rewrite fix videos and outright fanboy ragey complaint videos I watched as self-torture research as I prepared for this undertaking, a lot of them have similar complaints, some of them fairly valid. Since I do these fanfic videos all the time, I might as well stand with a billion other people who did the Star Wars sequels. So here we go. The biggest problem with the sequel trilogy was a lack of cohesive vision. Getting a different director and screenwriter for each installment in a trilogy is a colossal mistake. You might point out how many cooks were in the kitchen with the original trilogy, but you still had George Lucas guiding the ship. And you might point to Kathleen Kennedy as the mastermind behind the sequels, like Kevin Feige is for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I don't think Kennedy really did that much in overseeing these movies. The sequels feel like a bunch of people got together to improv a story with no idea of where the story was heading. While that was a lot of fun when you were a kid on a long car ride, doing that with a billion-dollar tentpole franchise is a bad idea. A lot of the problems I had would have been minimized if we had one person guiding the ship, instead of playing hot potato with the story. Doesn't have to be the same director or screenwriter on all three movies. Just one person or a group of people coming up with the roadmap for these movies to follow, with each director or screenwriter adding their own stylistic flourishes in each film, while still adhering to that roadmap. The movies we got, two of them I don't hate, but I also don't love them either. I'm pretty neutral. I'd rather the sequels have been set decades or even centuries after Return of the Jedi. Everyone thinks they want to see their favorite characters show up again, but either the old guard will overshadow the new kids that the movie is introducing, or the new characters will take up most of the screen time, as they should, and the old characters are basically just there to get butts in seats and die one by one, which is why I'd be perfectly fine with some distance between this and the original trilogy, but that wouldn't be in the spirit of these videos I do. So I'll more or less be sticking with the stuff that happened in these movies, offering changes here and there, which will ripple out and necessitate more changes in the later installments. The biggest thing I would change about The Force Awakens is combining Rey and Finn into one character. I've seen other people suggest this, and it's a great idea. One of my favorite characters was potentially Finn. A stormtrooper who realizes he's one of the bad guys and rebels to atone for everything he's done is an interesting character model, one we haven't seen before in previous Star Wars movies. That'll be something I keep coming back to in these videos, the we've seen this before, why don't we try something new thing. But Finn doesn't get much to do in this trilogy. He's set up in Force Awakens. He starts off with the bad guys, he helps Poe at the risk of his own life because it's the right thing to do. Then 1/3 of The Last Jedi is him learning he needs to fully commit to the cause of the rebellion because it's the right thing to do, repeating his character arc from The Force Awakens. But he was lucky to get a character arc in Last Jedi, even if it was rehashing Force Awakens, because it's more than he got in The Rise of Skywalker. But Rey is basically Luke from the original trilogy. A young person in the middle of nowhere gets pulled into the intergalactic conflict by a droid that carries important information, gets a lightsaber, is trained by a master in the Force who then dies, and goes on to redeem the villain who uses the dark side of the Force. Even if you point out one or two differences between Rey and Luke, the overall trajectory is identical to what we've seen before. But if you do the Force-sensitive hero's journey with the former stormtrooper, you have something we haven't seen before. For the rest of the video, I'll refer to this composite character as Kira. That was Rey's original name when the story was first getting hammered out. Luke Skywalker has vanished. In his absence, the sinister First Order has risen from the ashes of the Empire and will not rest until Skywalker, the Last Jedi, has been destroyed. Let's stop there. One of my biggest complaints with Force Awakens was how unclear the status quo of the galactic government was. Since Disney paved over the expanded universe, I can be forgiven for assuming, after the events of Return of the Jedi, the rebellion went on to form their own government. So what is the First Order? At one point, Hux is giving a speech and says the New Republic is tied to the Resistance. What's the Resistance? Does he mean the rebellion from 30 years ago, or is there a new rebellion? This is the movie calling back to the old movies. You've got evil British people in big spaceships, and Han and Leia are the underdogs fighting against them, with planets getting destroyed. But it doesn't make any sense in the context of the original trilogy. After Return of the Jedi, Leia, Han, Admiral Akbar, and Lando, they were able to build a new republic, different from how things were done in the Empire. While we only saw the bad side of the government in the original trilogy, there were probably lots of people who liked the stability of things. As long as you're not harboring a Jedi Knight in your basement, you don't have to worry about stormtroopers killing you. Now everything's chaos. The people we weren't supposed to like are now in charge. The Empire didn't disappear overnight, but the defeat of the Emperor was a pretty serious blow to the Empire. The remnants of the Empire faded away, and while that was was alarming, the New Republic didn't question it too much because new government to run. These old Imperial generals start secret recruitment drives, finding people who are still sympathetic to the old Empire and how nice and neat everything was. As the New Republic cements itself in power, the old Imperials start kidnapping children on the Outer Rim to train as soldiers, because volunteers sympathetic to the old order are now few and far between. Most people don't even remember the days when the old Empire was in power. All they know is the New Republic, and they like it. When you get to The Force Awakens, the First Order are a thorn in the side of the Republic. They've taken control of 1 or 2 planets on the Outer Rim, slowly expanding their base of operations. They won't have the big Star Destroyers because those are expensive. They don't have clean, pristine stormtrooper outfits, but something dirtier that's seen decades of action. Now, it's the Rebellion who are the bad guys, and the big government are the heroes we fell in love with last time. I wouldn't have the ground troops even be stormtroopers. The movie's most interesting idea is that stormtroopers are real people with real feelings. Covering their faces and having our heroes shoot at them with gleeful abandon spits in the face of that idea. If your primary concern isn't selling new stormtrooper toys, don't cover up the faces of the First Order. Show that they are real people too. On Jakku, Kira and her group are sent to kill Max von Sydow, not because he has information on Luke Skywalker, but because he is the New Republic's key man in this part of the Outer Rim, trying to sabotage the growth of the First Order. Max von Sydow is a priest in the Church of the Force, whatever that is, so Kira gets force headaches whenever they're about to kill him, and Kira breaks ranks here and now before they kill Max von Sydow. Kira shoots to wound. These are her brothers in combat. She doesn't want them dead, but she knows what they're doing is wrong. Max doesn't know why Kira is doing this, but he can feel Kira is meant to help him. So he gives her some information to take to Poe Dameron, an agent of the New Republic. Kira doesn't want to leave him behind, but Max von Sydow says go, the Force will be with you, and he somehow stalls the other soldiers, giving Kira time to escape. Let's talk about Kylo Ren. I'm fine with Han and Leia's son being Luke's student and turning to the dark side, but I will not have Kylo as a high-ranking member of the First Order. He has no reason to ally with rebels trying to reclaim their power base. They only did this to do more callbacks to the original trilogy. Kylo Ren would be doing his own thing and is not commanding Star Destroyers. So what is Kylo Ren doing? He's trying to eradicate any and all Force-using factions, good and bad. If there are Sith cults somewhere in the Outer Rim, he's tearing through them just as fiercely as he would a priest of the Church of the Force on Jakku. Kylo Ren walks into a battle between Max von Sydow and soldiers of the First Order minutes after Kira escaped. Ren doesn't care about the First Order. He waves his hand and they all explode. Max von Sydow tries to pick up a blaster to kill himself before Kylo Ren can read his mind, but it's too late. Ren knows Max just sent a Force-sensitive soldier away. There won't be a Lord Snoke in my trilogy. Kylo Ren appears to be acting on his own with no sinister Force user telling him what to do. You will find out later there is a sinister presence at work, but you don't see any indication of that in the first movie. Kira finds Poe, and she lies about who she is, because nobody's ever broken ranks like this before, so who would believe her if she said she had? Poe doesn't like that Max von Sydow isn't meeting him as planned, but before he can question Kira, First Order troops who recognize Poe start shooting at them. Kira and Poe run to the Millennium Falcon parked somewhere close by and make their getaway. This is where we meet Han and Chewbacca, who are high-ranking officers in the New Republic instead of smugglers. I don't mind the idea that Ben turning to the dark side set Han and Leia's marriage on fire, but I don't see why Han would go to a life of smuggling again. Even if he and Leia have a strained marriage, they're both mature enough to know the galaxy needs them at the top of their game, so Han wouldn't go back to smuggling, even if that's what he's comfortable with. You can argue Han never seemed to care about intergalactic intrigue in the original trilogy, but he grew past that by the end of Return of the Jedi. Poe takes a look at the message Kira delivered, and it's possibly a location of Luke Skywalker. Max von Sydow, living in the Outer Rim, heard some rumors of a Jedi temple that is no longer abandoned. Poe thinks this might be what we need. I've heard Han talk about Luke, and how he was one of the last of the Jedi Knights. If we find him, he could help us defeat the First Order. So it's not Luke Skywalker making and splitting up a map for someone to find him, because if he wants to hide, why would he make a map for people to find him? A lot of people were upset at how Last Jedi followed up on this, but I submit this was a stupid plot point in Force Awakens, and Rian Johnson was left holding the bag and did his very best. Instead of getting a lightsaber from Maz Kanata, Kira finds it on the Falcon when they're running from the First Order. Kira's being thrown around in the back, she falls against the wall, a storage compartment opens up, and the green lightsaber falls out. The mystery of how Maz got the blue lightsaber didn't bother me as much as it did some people, but if you don't plan on explaining where and how she got it, just go for the simpler route. If Luke went into self-imposed exile, say he came to Han and Leia in tears after Kylo Ren left him, and he gave them the lightsaber which reminded him of times he could no longer bear to think about. This is where Han explains that Kylo Ren was a student of the man who wielded that lightsaber, though he wouldn't explain yet that Kylo was his son. Once our heroes get back to the New Republic headquarters, we meet Leia and her advisor Maz Kanata. As soon as everyone walks in, alarms go off. Everyone trains their guns on Kira. Kira didn't know the First Order equips tracking devices in their kidnapped recruits, and these can act as explosives to be used in a pinch against New Republic soldiers in the field. The New Republic has technology to detect these devices, so now everyone knows what Kira is. They surgically remove this thing and throw her in a cell. Han and Poe are ready to throw away the key. They think she's a spy who probably killed Max von Sydow, but Leia senses Kira isn't a spy and has a talk with her. Kira doesn't know much about politics, but she knows the First Order is wrong, and she couldn't be a part of that anymore. Leia asks what her plans are. Does she want to become a soldier for the New Republic, help stop the First Order from doing what they do? Kira will become a pacifist. She was brainwashed into becoming a child soldier. She doesn't want to do any more fighting ever again. The idea of Rey trying to redeem Kylo Ren, that would work better if your protagonist is also seeking redemption, especially if you keep the idea that The Rise of Skywalker did, where Kylo Ren didn't choose this life, but it was forced on him by the bad guy, which would further parallel Kira's life. Leia talks about how she senses the Force in Kira, which is why she didn't believe she was a spy, and she tells Kira if she doesn't want to be a soldier, she could follow the path of studying the Force. She hands Kira Luke's lightsaber. At first, Kira refuses. That looks a lot like a weapon. This might be too clumsy to spell out in dialogue, but Leia can encourage Kira to use the lightsaber as a protector, defensively, and not as a weapon. This is where Leia explains to Kira what happened to her son. By the way, Leia didn't even know Ben Kenobi, and Han didn't get along with him. Definitely not enough to name his progeny after him. So his name is Bail, after Leia's father. Bail turned to the dark side and killed his fellow pupils, and her brother gave up because he believed he had failed his students. Like in the movie, Luke has attained the status of folklorish legends among the younger people working in the New Republic. They've heard exaggerated stories about how he single-handedly killed the Emperor and Darth Vader. Han believes Luke could be the icon the New Republic needs to lead them into victory, but Leia agreed with Luke. You failed us. My son is killing people because of you, so I don't want to hear anyone even mention the name of Luke Skywalker. But now Leia thinks Han is right. We need his help, and this girl needs his help. As Leia releases Kira, the base gets attacked by the First Order. The First Order has been chipping away at the Republic's smaller bases here and there, but this is their first time attacking the capital. With things grimmer than ever, Leia makes the decision. Poe, you, Kira, and Han will go to this Jedi temple and see if Luke is there. Poe isn't sure Kira should go, but Leia vouches for her. This might be a little below Han's pay grade, especially with all the chaos they've got to deal with here at the capital, but if Luke sees a familiar face, he's much more likely to come back and hear how bad things have gotten. Han hesitates, and if I see our son, then you get the same conversation you had in the movie about saving him. They head out to the Jedi Temple. We get a quick chase scene where a second wave of First Order soldiers see the Falcon leaving. General Solo is on that ship. If we take it down, that's a big victory for us. Poe's operating weapons while Chewie and Han fly. We get tension between Poe and Kira. Poe hoots and hollers if he hits one of the ships. Kira reminds him those people were likely kidnapped and brainwashed into what they're doing, just like I was. Poe reminds Kira his parents died at the hands of the First Order, so even if these grunts were forced into it, they're still the enemy, and they won't take it easy on the New Republic like Kira will on them. Kira feels useless, and then she pauses and grabs the steering wheel, helping the Falcon narrowly avoid getting blown to pieces. I don't mind the idea of your new Force-sensitive person being able to do some Force stuff without training, because we've seen that in both trilogies before now, but limit it as much as you can. Even though Kira saved the Falcon, maybe they sustained a big enough hit that they have to stop so Chewie can MacGyver a solution. While Chewie fixes the Falcon, Han, Poe, and Kira will hunt for food. This is where you get some bonding between them. Poe is a little less hard on Kira now thanks to her saving their bacon, and we get a little backstory about Poe. Han and Leia took him in when he was younger, so this is more about family loyalty for him than the ideals of the Republic. He was a friend of Kylo Ren, so seeing him go to the dark side and the thought of seeing him again while they're looking for Luke, that's tearing him apart, Lisa. We also get Han offering Kira a seat on the Falcon. Han's looking to step down from field work. While his heart is more into going out and getting his hands dirty than sitting behind a desk, he isn't getting any younger, and he's mature enough to know he has duties that take him away from the Falcon. Chewie's the captain, but he could use someone watching his back if you're not comfortable with the more traditional job of a soldier. They are not destroying another Death Star, because we've seen that already, twice. They get the Falcon working, they get to the Jedi Temple, and there's corpses everywhere. Any priest or priestess of the Force, they're all dead. Kylo Ren got the location of this temple before he killed Max von Sydow. Kylo senses Luke is somewhere on this planet, so he's searching for him, and our heroes reluctantly split up to see if they can find him before Kylo Ren does. Han finds Luke, who tried to defend the keepers of the temple, but he failed them, just like he failed his students. Han tries to get Luke back to the Falcon, but they run into Kylo. This plays out like it did in the movie, but this Kylo is not interested in shedding connections to his past to more fully embrace the dark side. This Kylo has not aligned himself with the dark or the light at all. There was a piece of concept art in the Art of the Force Awakens book that showed a double-bladed lightsaber, one side red, one side blue. That was really cool, so that's what Kylo carries. Kylo does not want to kill his father, but Han will not step aside to let him kill Luke. Kylo throws a force bolt toward Luke, but Han jumps in the line of fire. This upsets Kylo, and he runs away instead of sticking around to finish the job. Poe, Chewie, and Kira saw this from across a cliff, and Chewie loses his mind and starts shooting at Kylo, but to no avail. Poe joins in on this. Even though Kylo was like a brother to him, Han was like a father to him. Before our heroes can give chase, they're under fire from the First Order troops, the ones they were running away from earlier. Chewie, Poe, and Kira grab Luke and get on the Falcon. Luke will do some impressive force trick that allows them to get away. They get back to headquarters. Luke sorrowfully hugs Leia. They wish they could have reunited under better circumstances. Luke tries to apologize for his part in Bail's fall to the dark side, but Leia says she's lost her son and her husband. She does not want to lose her brother too. Leia hugs Poe too, and Kira and Luke will get a chance to talk a little. Luke says he's heard about her from Leia and tells her he isn't sure if he's ready to take on another student after what he's been through, but he senses Kira does need help, and he would rather face his own insecurities about his problems as a teacher than see Kira fall to the dark side because she didn't have someone to show her the way. With that, we end my version of The Force Awakens. I like to think this addresses most of my gripes with the movie. I hope you guys liked this one, and if you did, we've got 2 more coming, so look forward to those videos coming soon.